What is faith? What do we rely on when hope is lost? What gives us strength to carry on? Faith is a difficult thing to explain. In Hebrews 11:1-3, it says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." This very definition makes it inscrutable. If one has evidence, one no longer needs faith. The evidence of things not seen. I often wonder how helpful faith is. Consider a case of two mothers in the natal intensive care unit. One has faith that God will save her baby against all odds, and the other believes the poor prognosis of the doctor. Both babies die. Is it better for the mother who has had her hopes dashed, or better for the mother who never had hope? Both babies live. Is it better for the mother whose faith has been confirmed, or for the mother who is utterly surprised by the outcome? Now, a good or bad outcome might change one's perspective. The mother with faith might lose faith if her baby dies, but more likely she is likely to explain that it was God's will and find another explanation for it and keep her faith. And the mother who was utterly surprised by the outcome say, the doctor gave the baby a 5% chance, and I guess my baby was the 5%. Probably will not change her overall perspective on things. So what does faith do for us? Somehow it keeps us from giving up. It seeks a way when there is no way, but also can delude us and make us unprepared for the harsh realities of life. In studying this question, 3 songs came to my mind. One of my own compositions, one by the group U2, and one by Rodgers and Hammerstein. These songs offer 3 perspectives on faith. I begin with mine, which not surprisingly, is the most cynical. It's entitled, "Walking Up the Stairway at Night." Vocally, my wife Gail, with her pleasant voice, sings an optimistic line, and I reply with skepticism. "Morning comes like a resurrection." She sings it better than I do. It's an optimistic beginning. A new day dawns, full of possibilities. But instead, I focus on radio alarm in my ear. I prefer the deadness of sleep. Facing the responsibilities of the day is startling and unpleasant. Everyone needs some protection to keep them from living in fear. Faith gives people an assurance of safety, but I wonder if it's a false assurance. But nevertheless, I walk on to randomly pick some direction and get myself out of here. Just to break out of the stagnation. Somehow I seek change, even though I cannot really predict the future of any day. In our lives, we are told many things. many things to believe. And how do we choose? We often lack enough information at the time that we need to make the choice. The chorus of the song describes this quandary. It's not so hard to see that everyone has got an answer. It's not so hard to see that they all think they're right. But it's so hard for me when I see the contradiction. I'm walking up the stairway at night. Lack of belief, lack of certainty could paralyze me. But faith is different from belief. It's what keeps me going. Because I have very little way of knowing, I have faith that it will turn out okay if I just go. The second verse is, too many arguments don't hold water. My brain is feeling like a sieve. What will we do for an occupation? How will we manage to live? We've got to take what we're given and figure out some way to give. To survive, we must keep moving, find some way to manage. That line, to take what we are given, can kind of feel like resignation. Just take it. Just suffer. Walk it off. Play the hand you are dealt. Accept your fate. Because we know that the roll of the dice may not be in our favor. There is certainly someone richer, better looking, and smarter than you. There is certainly someone who is more advantaged. Does God pick the winners and losers? This past week in the Ukraine, someone had their maternity hospital bombed shortly after they were born. If one of those children lives, what will their life be? There is such a randomness to life. Do we deserve our blessings while others are cursed? Do they deserve their curse? Fate is our situation. Faith is the way we respond. How do we take what we are given and figure out some way to give? And I think that motion of taking what we're given tempts us to go internal. But to figure out some way to give takes the focus off of our particular situation and saying, I want to look at the bigger picture. What can I do? There must be something worthwhile to do. Faith is the reason to try to make things better. If successful, it will carry one through. If it fails, at least one can live with their own integrity, that they were brave enough to try. To find a person that is truly living is something quite rare. We often just take life as it comes and don't do much with it. We numb ourselves to reality. And there can be a comfort in playing our roles by rote. To paint by numbers frees one from the stress of choosing the color or shape of one's life. But then, the life we paint is not our own. And it's not even a good copy of someone else's life. Faith is what allows us to color outside the lines. Faith allows us to draw lines of our own. If we do not choose our own life, we are simply marking time until we die. And probably the most cynical song lyric I ever wrote is fear of suicide the only reason most of us stick around here. Fear gives a person a reason not to die. But faith is the reason for living. We climb the stairway at night not knowing what will happen if we take one more step and find that it's not there. We will stumble. We will struggle. Yet we can find a reason to continue. It may be faith in God, it may be faith in ourselves, or it may be faith in the processes of the universe, or the particular technology that we are using to bring us safety. U2's song, I still haven't found what I'm looking for, is more anguished than mine. I suspect Bono's life as an Irish Catholic growing up during the times of the Troubles in Ireland was more anguished than my quiet American white Anglo-Saxon Protestant upbringing. My crisis in faith came from intellectual reflection of different theological viewpoints. It was not knowing what to believe. Bono, the lead singer of U2, does not have a crisis of belief. In the song, he confesses his orthodoxy. You broke the bonds and you loosed the chains, carried the cross of my shame, of my shame. You know I believe it. He believes in the kingdom come. Yet, it's not enough. Because faith is more than belief. It's more than just checking off the right boxes. You may hold something to be true, but each day you have to figure out what to do with that belief. My mind just went to a contemporary reggae song at the same time as I still haven't found what I'm looking for. Group called Third World had a song that said, now that we found love, what are we going to do with it? So lack of faith can feel like a crisis, but even having a belief in something still causes that question. What are we going to do with it? Sometimes it feels like you're holding the hand of the devil, and sometimes it's the ecstasy of speaking in the tongues of angels. Yet, one comes down from the highest mountain feeling cold as a stone. The life of faith is not actually easier for believers. There is still the need for a deeper connection than just belief. Seeking ways of knowing that are beyond words. Belief is static. Belief is the place that one settles. It is the conclusion that one jumps to. It is a static. Faith is the inspiration for action. Faith is the motivation for movement. Which brings me to the third song. You Never Walk Alone by Rodgers and Hammerstein. Written right after World War II. When you walk through a storm, hold your chin up high and don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. This song is from the musical Carousel, and it occurs right after a pregnant woman's husband dies while committing a crime. And a friend consoles her by saying, the main thing is to keep on living, to keep on caring about what's going to happen. And I think that is the essence of faith, to keep caring, to keep going, to keep living, whatever motivates your faith. Now the song says two things about faith, and one I like and one I dislike. I dislike the lines, at the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of a lark. It's the promise that things will get better. And sometimes that can help, but in reality, it's not always true. It couldn't be a false hope. And it avoids the truth and minimizes the present suffering with the promise of a better day. What often passes for faith is toxic positivity. People often say trite things to try to cover up or deflect pain. When someone dies, we say, he's in a better place. We lose a relationship, people will tell us there's plenty of fish in the sea. When our job is gone, we're told that there's freedom and opportunity. All through our lives, we are told, don't worry, be happy. About his book, Toxic Positivity, Chase Hill writes, have friends asked you to count your blessings when you confided in them about your troubles? Are you struggling with self-hate when you see online are these phrases, good vibes only, think happy thoughts, focus on the bright thought side? If yes, you might be a victim of toxic positivity. Too much of a good thing can be poisonous, including positivity. Focusing on positive thinking at all times, even when things are difficult, is as damaging because it discredits non-positive emotions, such as fear, anger, and sadness. These so-called negative emotions are actually helpful to our psychological and physical health because facing reality helps you manage trauma. Pain is meant to be felt. You need to go through every emotion in order to process the event that caused it. This is why I bristle when someone says, have faith. It's almost as bad as when a salesman says, trust me. It replaces problem solving with magical thinking. If one is looking for pie in the sky by and by, one will miss the facts on the ground here and now. What I like about You'll Never Walk Alone is the promise of help. Walk on. Keep searching. We need to be reminded that we are not alone. If we huddle and only look inward to our sorrow and our fear, we don't see the bigger picture. So we need to get up and walk on, to reach out. And we'll find that although our suffering is real, it's not unique. Many have walked this road before us and will walk it after us. We do not get around our troubles by pretending they're not there. We have to walk through them. Some preachers will tell you to have faith in miracles. They preach a soaring faith. But you're stuck with me. I preach a trudging faith. Walk on through the wind. Walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. You do not have to pretend to be strong. Remember, you are not alone. You are not walking alone. You are imperfect, and you can be helped by imperfect people. That is the way it always has been, and perhaps will always be. Faith is in the trying. Even if we fail, we have the satisfaction of trying. Not trying guarantees failure. Trying is living. All life is a trial. Sometimes it's trial and error, and sometimes it's trial and triumph. But the reality is our bodies will fail us. But we can live up until the moment we die. My mother, who died at 50, told my sister, "There never is a good time to die. There's always something more to live for." 14 years later, my grandmother died, approaching 90. And she said, "There's always more to learn." These are statements of faith. Faith is that striving towards something more. The belief that it can be better, even in death. And sharing your thoughts with your loved ones is a way of giving. I remember my mother had a friend who was very religious. And she said, "Audrey's coming over and she's going to be praying for my healing." My mother was a nurse. She knew her prognosis. And she said, "I don't really believe in it, but she needs to do it. So I'm going to let her pray over me." That act of faith, to be looking out for others, even when one's dying, it's just a memory that popped into my head, and I kind of have to process a bit. But that's what I'm talking about. That sense of knowing that you're not walking through this alone, and purposely bringing others along with you on your walk. Our minds might go before our bodies, and that's what's most frightening to me personally. But by facing that fear and knowing that it's a reality, I can make plans for the future. I can talk now with my potential caregivers. Because learning how to die is part of learning how to live. So let us have faith in ourselves and the faith to reach out to others so we never walk alone. Faith is not an empty promise of tomorrow. It is the commitment to live today to the best of our abilities, to celebrate our victories and forgive our failures and the failures of others. Faith is not knowing for certain that life is worthwhile. It is acting as if life is worthwhile. Faith is the creation of meaningful lives by acting as if our lives have meaning. May we bless and be blessed.